Hi, do you love working overlay mosaic crochet, but you don't love all those pesky ends? I don't either. Hi, I'm Susan Lohman, the Crochet Architect. I have a new technique for you today to work your overlay mosaic crochet back and forth. So some of your stitches will be worked backwards. So let's get started. This is what I'm going to teach you today. This is the back and forth overlay mosaic crochet technique. All of these rows are done right-handed because I'm right-handed. But if you look closely, you can tell that some of the rows look like they were crocheted left-handed because I did crochet them from left to right instead of right to left. And I'll show you how to do this in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to take a quick look at regular overlay mosaic. There's a piece and all these ends are what you come up with because you have to start and stop every row. And all these rows are worked on the right side. This swatch is my comb technique where you carry the yarn across and you end up with much less tails. This swatch is either clean mosaic or endless mosaic, and a couple other designers came up with this style of overlay mosaic, and you're actually working some wrong side stitches, as you can see here on these single crochets. That's the wrong side of those single crochets, but it eliminates most of those ends. So I'm going to teach you this back and forth overlay mosaic crochet right now. So let's take a look first at the chart. And I have prepared a chart for you. This is a free download on my website. As you can see, it's the back and forth overlay mosaic crochet. And each row is marked where you begin and which color you're going to work with. So you're going to do two right side rows, one with your main color and one with your contrasting color, and then you'll work two wrong side rows. Now each one of these rows has a symbol here. Actually it's a square. It's either an open square for a back loop single crochet, and that's in the row color, not the color of the square, or it's a double crochet, or you could do an anchored double crochet with your main color or your contrasting color. This is color specific for these squares, but not for these. And there's some information here, some abbreviations, and some notes about it. But we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I've already worked row 1, which is all single crochets, and there are 17 single crochets on the chart. I started with 18 chains and did a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each of the remaining chains across, and I have 17 single crochets. And what I have done is I have put a stitch marker in the loop that was on my hook when I finished the row. So that way this loop doesn't get pulled out and my stitches get pulled out. So using a stitch marker at the end of the row is very helpful. Now on row 2, as you can see on the chart, we're going to work all single crochets in our contrasting color. And I like to start the row with the single crochet in both loops. You can start with a single crochet in the back loop if that's what you prefer, but I like my edges a little bit firmer than the rest of the row. Now, if you don't know how to do overlay mosaic crochet, I suggest you watch a video on that before you watch this video, because you need to know the basics of overlay mosaic crochet before learning this back and forth method. And I have a link to that in the video description, so you can check that out. So in order to start my first stitch, there's several ways I can do it. I'm going to insert my hook under both loops of that first single crochet, and I'm still on the right side of my piece. I'll yarn over and pull up a loop, chain 1, and that does not count as my first stitch. So I'll do my first single crochet in that same single crochet. Now the rest of the row, except for the last stitch, is a back loop single crochet. So every single crochet across will be worked in just the back loop. So I'll go ahead and work this row, and I'll meet you when I get to the end of this row. Okay, I've done my back loop single crochet in each of the other single crochets across, and I'm at my last stitch, so I will do my single crochet in both loops of that stitch. And that's my last stitch on row 2. So I can elongate my loop. I'm going to go ahead and elongate the loop on row 1 and take that stitch marker out and put it in the loop on row 2 to keep that secure. And now I'm ready to start row 3 with my pink, which is my main color, my dark color, and let's take a look at the chart and see what we're going to do. So we've done rows 1 and 2, we're ready for row 3, and that's going to start on the left-hand edge, and that's where my yarn is, on the left-hand edge. So we're going to work our stitches across. I'll go ahead and put my magnet right above row 3 so I can see each of these stitches and where they're worked into. And we're going to start with a single crochet. But we're not going to do a regular single crochet. We're going to do it backwards because this is a wrong side row, but we want our stitches to look like they are right side stitches. So we'll move that over there for a minute, and I'll put my hook back in my loop from row 1, and I'm going to chain 2. Now this is going to leave a little bit of an extra chain along the edge, but that's okay because we will cover that with an edging, a single crochet edging, just like I've done in this swatch. So you can't even see those extra chains on the edge. So we have a chain 2, and then we're going to turn our work. Now you can have this tail at the front or at the back. I'm just going to put it at the back, kind of to get it out of the way, which is actually the front, but it's the wrong side. So if we were going to work our first single crochet regular, we would insert our hook, let me get that loop out of the way, from the front to the back, correct? Yes. But we're going to work this row backwards. We would normally have our yarn at the back to insert our hook at the front. So let's change that and put our yarn at the front and insert our hook from the back. And I'll let that drop for just a second. And because it's my first stitch on the row, I'm going to go in both loops of that stitch, the front loop and the back loop. Now I'll go ahead and pick this back up, and I'm going to yarn over backwards. I would normally yarn over this way, but I'm going to yarn over this way and catch my yarn and pull it to the back, which is the right side of the piece. And I would normally yarn over this way, and I'm going to yarn over backwards and pull it through both loops of that stitch. And you can see this is what looks like the back of a single crochet, and on the front that looks like the front of a single crochet. So this is our backwards single crochet. And the next stitch on our chart is a double crochet or an anchored double crochet. I'll go ahead and do it as a double crochet for a couple of these stitches, and then I'll do a couple other ones as an anchored double crochet so you can see the difference. So remember, instead of putting our yarn behind, we're going to have our yarn in front, and we're going to insert our hook from the backwards. Okay, so if we're going to start a double crochet, we would normally yarn over this way. We're going to yarn over backwards, and we would normally insert our hook when we're doing our double crochet in regular mosaic, overlay mosaic. We insert our hook from the bottom to the top. So we're going to skip that back, yarn over backwards, and insert our hook right here in this loop from the bottom to the top. And we will yarn over backwards and pull up a loop. So we're doing everything backwards. So you have to think backwards in this technique. So we have our 3 loops on the hook for our double crochet. We will yarn over backwards and pull through the first 2 loops, and yarn over backwards and pull through the last 2 loops. Now let's look at the other side. This is the front of our work, and you can see this looks like a double crochet that has been crocheted by a left-handed crocheter. But if I try to do this with my left hand, it's going to look really, really bad because I'm not good at that. Some people can do that with both hands, and that is a big bonus for them. Okay, so this was our double crochet on the chart, and we need 3 single crochets in the back loop. So let's do those 3. Remember, because we did our double crochet here, we're going to skip this single crochet. So our next stitch will be over here. And we want to have our yarn in the front and insert our hook in the back. Now you can tell that this is the front loop as we're looking at it. But if we were crocheting this left-handed from this side, this is our back loop, and we're still using the same loops to do this technique, but we are crocheting backwards on this row. So my yarn is in front. I'm putting my hook in from the back to the front. I'm yarning over backwards, pulling up a loop, yarning over backwards, and pulling through 2 loops on the hook. Let's do that 2 more times. Yarn in front, insert our hook backwards, pull up a loop backwards, yarn over backwards, and pull through 2. 1 more time, insert our hook backwards, pull up a loop backwards, yarn over backwards, and pull through 2. Now let's take a look at what we've got so far. Can you see that there's a lean the opposite way that there is on the 2 rows below? That's because we're crocheting backwards. But this is all the right side of these stitches. If we were doing regular single crochet, we would see the wrong side of the single crochets. Here's the wrong side of those stitches. So let's go ahead and we'll do another backwards double crochet right here on our chart. And then we'll do 3 more backwards single crochets. So remember, we are going to yarn over backwards, insert our hook. We've got to find our stitch too. We want to skip 3 stitches down here and go in the 4th one, which should be right below that single crochet, and it is. So let's get our yarn over back on here, and we can drop this yarn if we want to. Find this loop of the stitch, go in from the bottom to the top, yarn over backwards, and pull that loop through. And you see I've got the 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to yarn over backwards again, pull through the first 2, yarn over backwards, and pull through the last 2. And we have another backwards double crochet. You can see that it looks like regular double crochets, but it looks like it's done by a left-handed crocheter, which I am not. But you can do this technique if you're a left-handed crocheter. Just do your rows backwards. Okay, we've got 3 backwards single crochets in the back loop. So we're doing those the same way we did the other ones. Sometimes you have to fiddle around to get your hook to go through those loops, because it's a little bit different muscle memory than it is crocheting forwards. Because we've got everything backwards. We've got our yarn in front instead of behind. We're putting our hook in from behind instead of in front. and we're yarning over backwards, so everything's different. So let's take a look. We've got our first single crochet, our double, 3 singles, a double, and 3 singles. And we're ready for what comes next on the chart, which is another double crochet, 3 singles, double crochet, and 3 singles. Now, if you like to do anchored double crochets, and if you've never seen me do those, go ahead and check out my anchored double crochet video. You probably are going to want to continue to do anchored double crochets in this technique. So this is how you're going to do a backwards anchored double crochet. You're still going to have your yarn in front, but instead of starting the double crochet part, we're going to start the anchored part. So we're going to insert our hook from the back to the front and do the single crochet portion of that anchored double crochet. So here's the anchored part. Now we'll start our double crochet part and make sure we're going to go in the correct stitch. We have 1, 2, 3 down here, and it should be this one right here, which it is right below, but our yarn over fell off. So get that yarn over back on there, and we will go right below here because this is our anchored portion. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so right down here, we still have those 3 stitches there. We want to go from the bottom to the top in that stitch, and you can help your hook get in there. We're going to yarn over backwards and pull up that loop. Yarn over backwards and pull through 2. And like an anchored double crochet, there's that extra loop on there. We're going to yarn over backwards and pull through all 3 at the end. And here is our anchored double crochet. This little strand right here is the anchored portion. So if you have a lot of double crochets in a row and you don't like that gap on the back, then go ahead and do backwards anchored double crochets. So we'll go ahead and do 3 more back loop single crochets, working backwards, keeping our yarn in front, yarning over backwards, and finishing our stitches backwards so that they look like right side stitches, because we're making them as if we are left-handed instead of right-handed. Then we're ready for another anchored double crochet backwards. So remember, put your yarn in front, insert your hook from the back into the back loop, that next stitch, yarn over backwards and pull up a loop. And we're going to want to start the double crochet portion because this is the anchored portion in that back loop of the row below, or the previous row. Keep our yarn over on the hook, and this is our stitch, so this is the one we're going to go into right below from the bottom to the top, and I find it easier just to use the tip of my hook to get it in there. Yarn over backwards and pull up a loop. There we go. So we have 4 loops on the hook because we have an extra loop for our anchoring. So we will yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the last 3 loops. So there's our anchored double crochet again. And we have 3 more back loop single crochet. So here's 1. The back loop single crochets are a lot easier to work than the double crochets, but all of this takes practice. Okay, this is my last stitch, so I'm going to go under both loops, the front loop and the back loop. But I'm still doing a backwards single crochet. And this is the end of this row. So let's take a good look here. What we've got. We have we started over here, remember, we were working backwards. So we've got our single and our double, and 3 singles and a double, 3 singles, a double, 3 singles, a double, and 3 singles. So this is what our row looks like. You can tell these are all right side stitches. Now, it takes time to practice to get your tension a little bit tighter on the backwards rows than on the forwards rows. So I'll go ahead and show you a couple more times on the next row. Row 4, I'm going to take my stitch marker out of the loop and put it in this loop because I don't want this one to fall out while I'm working on the next row. Okay, I'm ready to start row 4. I'll put my hook in the loop, chain 2, and turn. And now we need to find out what stitches we're working on row 4. So on row 4, we're starting from the left-hand edge, doing our backwards row, and we're going to start with 2 single crochets and then do a double crochet. So let's make sure that we do our first single crochet under both loops, the front loop and the back loop. So insert our hook from the back to the front with the yarn in front, yarn over backwards and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops on the hook. And the next stitch we can do just in that back loop. So we're yarning over backwards and doing our backwards single crochet. There we go. And now we're ready for a double crochet. So we yarn over backwards and find our stitch right below here, and it's this one next to the pink one. We will insert our hook from the bottom to the top. If we put our hook in from the top to the bottom, that's going to twist this loop. So we want to go from the bottom to the top. Yarn over backwards and pull up our loop. Let's get that through there. Sometimes you just have to go over and over to get it. So we've got our 3 loops on the hook, yarn over backwards, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over backwards and pull through the last 2 loops. So because this was a double crochet, our next stitch is going to be here. We have to skip that single crochet. So what we're going to work on the rest of the row is 3 singles, double, 3 singles, double, 3 singles, double, and 2 singles. So let's go ahead and do 3 more singles. Here's one. These are backwards. So we're inserting our hook backwards. We've got our yarn in front instead of behind. We're yarning over backwards, but the rest of the stitch is the same. It's just worked backwards. Now, if you can crochet with both hands, it may be easier for you, but I can't. So we're ready for another double crochet because we have our 3 single crochets right here. And we will start our double crochet by yarning over backwards, finding our stitch right below this one, which is this one here. Insert our hook from bottom to top, yarn over backwards and pull up a loop. Yarn over backwards, pull through 2, yarn over backwards, pull through 2. Okay, so you can see our stitches are right in the right places. So I've worked my white into my white in both of these. My pink ones are worked into my pink ones. So it's just like Overlay Mosaic, but every 2 rows we're working backwards. So we'll skip this stitch and do 3 more back loop single crochet, and then I will demonstrate that backwards anchored double crochet for you again. Because sometimes it just takes watching it over and over. Okay, so the anchored part is inserting the hook from back to front in the back loop of that next stitch and drawing up a loop. So now it's anchored, but now it's time to start the single crochet portion. So the yarn over, insert our hook from bottom to top in that stitch, which is right below our where we put our anchored section. Yarn over and pull up a loop. There we go. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the last 3. Whoops, get right through there. Okay, there's our anchored double crochet, right where it needs to be. We'll do 3 more back loop single crochet backwards, inserting our hook backwards, yarning over backwards, making backward stitches as if we were working with our non-dominant hand. Maybe your left hand, it may be your right hand. Okay, we'll do 1 more backwards anchored double crochet, inserting our hook in the back loop and pulling up a loop. There's our anchored portion, yarning over for the double crochet portion, finding the loop that we need to go into, which is this one here. Yarn over backwards and pull through. We have our 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over backwards, pull through the first 2, yarn over backwards, and pull through the last 3. We have our last 2 stitches, which is a back loop single crochet, and then a single crochet in both loops for the last stitch. So here's my both loops right here, and my backwards single crochet. So let's take a look at our piece. We've got the first 4 rows done, and these are all the rows I'm going to demonstrate for you. But you can see that we have 2 right side rows worked from right to left and 2 wrong side rows worked from left to right, but those stitches are the front of the stitches, as you can see. It's the front of every stitch, the right side of it, and here's the wrong side of every stitch. If you recognize what a single crochet looks like on the back, you can tell that this is the back of every stitch. So this is a really cool technique. It's worth practicing. And look, all I have are my first 2 strands, and I'm going to keep carrying these colors up the side and keep working with them. There will not be any beginning and ending every row, having tails everywhere, and I just love it. So you will continue, if you want to download this free chart, you continue on the chart, and you can move your magnet up. You have the 2 right side rows and the 2 wrong side rows. And you'll have 2 right side rows. As you can tell, I have the loop here ready for my next right side row with my main color, which will be row 5. And then I will have this loop ready for my next right side row of my contrasting color, loops row 6. Then I'll have the loops down here for rows 7 and 8, and on and on. And I just follow the chart to know where my single crochets and my double crochets or anchored double crochets will be placed. And then when you're done with your swatch, it'll look something like this. Now this is not reversible, it still is stripes on the back. And in some of these places I've worked regular double crochets, and some places I've worked anchored double crochets. But since there's only 1 double crochet in a spot and there's not multiple together, you don't really notice the difference on the back. So I hope you will try this technique and let me know what you think. I wanted to show you real quick how to do the edging on this, because you're going to want to do an edging on the side edges, and you might as well go all the way around. But these chain 2s need to be covered up so that they look pretty. So at the end of our last row, we have our final single crochet, and we're going to want to do 2 extra single crochets there to go around the corner. So we always increase in corners when we're doing an edging. And these were worked into the white row, so now I want to work a single crochet into the pink row. And I'm going to be covering up the white chains here on the edge. So it's going to get nice and neat on the edge with an edging. So now I want to go in the white row and then the pink row. And these are really your main color and contrasting color. And as long as you go in 1 stitch over on each of these rows, you'll be covering up those chain 2s. So you do that all the way down, the side of your piece, whether you're doing the swatch like I'm doing, or you're doing your actual project, you'll be doing 1 single crochet in the edge of each row. And you want to do these on the right side of your piece. This is the right side. As you can tell, that's the wrong side. You want to see the nice side of your stitches. Okay, here's a single crochet in the edge of row 1, and now we're down to the free loops of the chains at the bottom of row 1. So in the first free loop, I'm going to do 3 single crochets so that I can increase in that corner and turn the corner nicely. And then there was 1 single crochet in the free loop of each chain all the way across to the other corner. Now, since I worked row 1 into 2 loops of each of the foundation chains, there's 1 loop remaining. If you do your first row into 2 loops, if you do your foundation row into 1 loop, then you'll have 2 loops remaining. So you always want to work into the 1 or 2 loops that are remaining at the bottom of your foundation chain. So I will work this all the way across here. I'm going to do 3 single crochets in this corner. I'll do a single crochet in the edge of each row up here, going around those chain 2s. I'll do 3 single crochet at this top right corner, a single crochet in each one across, and then a single crochet in this last one here, and a slip stitch here. And I'll show you what it looks like when I get all the way around. Okay, I've gotten the whole edging done. I finished here, and what do you think? That makes it a whole lot nicer, doesn't it? To cover those chain 2s at the edges of your project. I hope you've enjoyed this video on learning to do overlay mosaic crochet back and forth. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching, and happy overlay mosaic crocheting to you. Okay, what was I going to say?
Have you ever blah, 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 blah.
Architect. I've got a new video for you today to teach you how to work overlay mosaic